My name is Paul Adepochu, Community Manager for the International Center of Journalists. And today, Renata will be getting things started and introducing our speaker, and I'll be back in a minute. Renata, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are very pleased to have you all here again. This is the third session in partnership with the Forum and Elevate. Today, we're going to talk about video monetization. I know that's a very important topic for all news media outlets. But first, I just want to say that Elevate is ICFJ's sustainability program. We focus on helping news media outlets to work on business issues so they can monetize and increase their revenue stream. I'm going to write on a chat the website for Elevate, so you can sign up and wait and have information about the next cohort. Applications will be launched early January 2024. I hope to see your application here. But now I'm not going to talk about anymore. I'm going to talk about Adriana and Tala. So Adriana is our speaker today. She's a specialist in video monetization, and Tala is a participant from last year's cohort. He's from Pakistan, and he worked with Adriana, and he's going to share his case after about how his organization is using all the knowledge from the mentorship with in his organization. So Adriana, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh my God, we have so many people. 147 people. Wow, this is kind of like a record. Let me start by sharing the screen and let's do it. So we're gonna have an intro. It's really a flash because this topic could take me for many sessions, but I'm gonna give you an overview. And kind of like the starting point is like, why do I believe that having a solid content publishing strategy in YouTube would be an essential way to serve your audience to begin with, and to be a surprisingly attractive way of solidifying your sustainability, particularly for independent news organizations. I have the pleasure of working with Talha from TMC in Pakistan, and also before in our news organization in Brazil, another in Nicaragua, and in Peru. So I've seen how by jumping into, at the beginning, testing YouTube, and then start really solidifying a strategy over there, you can actually generate money that could help you to sustain your operation. So let's jump straight into, why do you need a dedicated YouTube strategy? Well, because your audience is there. As you can see, the news consumption, this is for United States, but my suspicion is that for many of our regions outside United States, well, I'm based in LA, but I mainly work abroad, and I've seen how much people are into video, and you can see that Facebook is still 30%, but and that's what even before in October, before even Facebook changed their algorithm to downgrade even more news. But YouTube, it's up there in terms of a source of news consumption. Then the other reason why is that, as I just kind of briefly said, Facebook is pulling away from news and users are consuming less news there. That's a trend. When you see the trends up there, it's like, whoa, and the proportion what matters here is also the proportion and the way that it's decelerating. Another reason, it's that YouTube offers a faster monetization than other social media. It has a low barrier to enter, relatively speaking. All you need is just create your channel and maybe start with one of the formats that are easy to produce. Like actually one of the most successful cases that I've seen was when I went to Santa Barbara with the headquarters of YouTube, and Times, etc., to independent news organizations. And one of the best cases was in Mexico, and it was a small news organization that never managed to really jump to the big tier. And during COVID, the editor-in-chief, start podcasting from home. It became an immediate success. And of course, they had a lot of production. And even outside Mexico, United States, they managed to bring a lot of money with their podcasting, and now they have a full range of shows. And as I said, so that's why we said it's a low production cost to start. Do you guys see my presentation, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing, it's just keep in mind when you say short and long form videos are the formats that are growing the most in popularity among newsrooms. You said, which medium do you think would grow in popularity in 2023? Short video, podcast, which is video, newsletters, long form video. You see, video is leading the way. And I do not endorse any social media platform, but I've seen, the behavior of all of them. Of course, here in the United States, right now we're talking about the implosion of Twitter, now ex-Twitter. But considering the options, YouTube, as I've seen it, they claim that news matter to them. And when I was in this event, especially for news partners in YouTube headquarters, the head of the division said independent journalism is a bedrock of society, and they have a very strong structure. They have like the head of the news, the head of the UX for news, the head of community for news. So it's a very big structure. And they have put a lot of effort on listening to news partners, to understand what are the needs of the particular type of content that news produce. The other reason why having a YouTube strategy might be something good to consider is that it has a better monetization than TikTok. I'm not going to say that you should not test the waters in YouTube, and I have one slide about it. But as at least as we've seen it here in the United States, even big podcasters choose to do short formats in TikTok, maybe just for branding. But at the end of the day, when it comes to monetization, the best place to monetize ends up being YouTube. So let's just a little, a little data points or just insights of how to be successful in how to have a successful strategy in YouTube and serve your audiences on where what do you need to do? Well, you need to feed the beast. And I call the beast the algorithm. You need to understand the YouTube algorithm. So YouTube channel is basically designed to be a multi-format experience. And when we're talking about multi-formats, we're talking about the type of videos. Shorts, which are verticals, clips, 1 to 2 minutes, live, that could be one or more, long video on demand, 10 to 20 minutes, 12 minutes could be the average, and long podcasting. There are some podcasts that are actually one of the most profitable podcasts in the United States. It's a health podcast by Andrew Huberman. His podcasts are 2 hours, or Joe Rogan, that he has like 2 hours of podcasting. So once you develop an audience and loyalty, some of those podcasts can be even longer than 1 hour. But as YouTube said, they see themselves as a multi-format because it's meant to be these kind of different variation, different lengths, different style of production, depending on what is your content strategy and your type of audience. So tuning in news, what are the production styles of the most popular news channels and political podcasts in YouTube? Well, we're talking about debates, panel, kind of like typical multi-host are talking, host blogging, which that's also conversational videos, reacts, we call it the reacts, in which, and this is also for certain formats, let's say, like let's talk about movies. This is very typical, or gaming, in which the host has a split screen. They put a website and they start talking about what's happening in the website and they react. That's a very low production cost way to start jumping into, you know, this kind of type of content. Live events, of course, that's live host blogging reaction. That requires a little bit more of production, because most of the time you have a split screen, or you have two screens in which the host is reacting to a live event. I've seen that happening a lot here in political podcast, to let's say a political debate, or a big political event in which they stream, or they just, you know, from another broadcasting, and they are reacting, and people are chatting, and that becomes like an event. That also requires active management of comments and reactions, which, by the way, when you start developing this interaction, live interaction, what's the benefit of live streaming? That you have these live comments, and if you manage them well, you can start monetizing those with super chats, call to actions, and those interactions with super chats, as I said. Another format are the explainers, that could be either conversational, or in many of these formats of explainers, they're animated, and some of them become, you know, a success in themselves. There's certain types that they just do animation, and it doesn't have to be very complex animation. It could be just like, you know, different graphics, or different, you know, little kind of even like type of meme kind of thing. And if the storytelling is good, they can become really successful. And the other is documentaries, which could be like more kind of like TV type of production. So those are typical, all the formats that we've seen in this in the type of news or political coverage. Let's talk now how people choose what to watch in YouTube, because this is part of understanding how the beast works. Either they know what they want and they search for it. By the way, YouTube search is the second most used search engine in the world, after, of course, Google. They subscribe to channels that they want to see. YouTube suggests what you want to see, and I know that you have experienced that. Once you start seeing something about, I don't know, you know, Taylor Swift, and then they start telling you, you know, you might also want to see that video to you, or they found the video on the other social media. The two most important ways that people get exposed to content in YouTube is they search, and YouTube suggests videos for them, and they suggest videos for them based on behavior. And that's why understanding how the beast works, it matters a lot. And one misconception, and that's why I bring the next slide, has to do with subscribers and the average views. You might have, and this, for instance, that's why I put this graph here. When you see, this is the average view per video on channels that have more than 1 million subscribers. So as you see, let's talk about, for instance, MSNBC, which is so big in the United States. They might have more than 1 million subscribers, but their average view is 150,000 views per video. Or Good Morning Britain, only 97,000 views per video. So don't get discouraged if you think that, well, I only have an average of 20,000 views per video. Well, that will be a lot already. And you might have, so actually, I wouldn't say that you should not take into consideration subscription, the number of subscription, but what matters the most is your average view, and there's certain metrics that it would be wise to look ahead. So how to grow a YouTube channel? Feed the beast. Start with data-driven content creation decisions. And this is another reason why I love to work on YouTube, because YouTube, it's a very data-driven, it could be a very data-driven platform. And when you know how to understand this that data on a daily basis, by the way, actually it changes day by day during the day, then you can really, that's what it's called optimizing your channel. So let's talk about what are the funnel of user behaviors that the algorithm rewards. And this graphic was actually presented to us by YouTube in Santa Barbara. This is how they measure behavior in the YouTube channel. They measure signals of the users regarding, do they choose to see your videos? Then how involved they are. Do people that click keep watching? Are they satisfied? Did they like what they see? And there are metrics that reflect and measure each of these behavior. That's why the first things that we did, Tahal and I, when we start working, right? Remember, we jump into their analytics. YouTube analytics is a full universe of insights. It's a must for any YouTube content creator. And I would say the starting point is the channel's analytic overview. It gives you the general sense of performance, but you definitely need to dig deeper. If you're going to have a successful channel, I would strongly recommend to either get yourself, that you have to talk about what's the minimal organization or team members. You need someone that loves to be in analytics. And it's not that complex, actually. I've learned it myself. It's different than Google Analytics. It's completely different, but you definitely need to be familiar with this. There are also paid tools or freemium tools that could improve your technical proficiency to use software tools for analytics. I always use vidIQ. It gives you a lot of insights, suggests keyword optimizations, but I love the panel where they allowed you to see your competition, and it's the only tool, because not even YouTube gives you this tool pretty easily, is the only tool that allows you to see the total of views of your competitors. So you can see that when we start working with TMC, the BBC News had 9.7 million views per month in their YouTube channel, and TCM Originals had 330,000, and the Central Media, which is another channel that had, was 111,000 views. So if you learn how to use this tool, and this is, by the way, it's a combination of free and paid, but sometimes it's worth to consider. Pay is not that expensive. I think it's like $20 here in the United States. It's $20 a month or something like that. I don't recall. So let's jump now in a little bit more of the structure. And I'm going to share with you a Hollywood mantra: pre-production, pre-production, pre-production. If you want to do a good movie or a good TV show, you need to invest in pre-production. Invest your thinking first, your time, and maybe resources, but basically time to think. So the starting point is data collection and analysis. Know yourself. Know your YouTube analytics and your other social media. Where have you post video? See how it works, what doesn't work. Know the others, get to know who you're competing against, and be open-minded, because when we're in video, you might be competing against independent creators or just a podcaster or someone that you might not even have on your radar, but it's grabbing and covering the same type of content that you're covering, and it's getting attention. And knowing what they're doing, it might give you a lot of information that helps you to build a better channel. The other aspect is your content plan. What type of content you will serve to best target your audience? How many shows and different sub brands are you going to have? That's a very important decision, because sometimes I've seen in the past, it might be a mistake depending on the size of organization, and we go that just start different channels in YouTube, and then managing all of them at the same time is very difficult. So maybe in your case would be better choice to have just one big mother brand and creating different shows inside the mother brand. What is the frequency of each show? What type of shows? Is it going to be a more satirical one? Is it going to be a more serious one? Is it going to be a fact-checking channel? That is a decision that is better to do before you start. How many videos per week, per day will you publish? I've seen like these successful in the Mexico channel. They started once a week, just once a week, and they cut and edit. So they have every day they did the best of, or the best moments, and in different lens. So that production needs to be planned ahead. As I said, how many original videos, how many edited or video cuts per week or per day. That also, I mean, of course, ideally you should be posting every day, not necessarily original, but as I said, you could have once a week a big podcast or something that requires more pre-production, and then your edits, content pre-production, topics, scripts, talking points, booking the guest. That is crucial. If you're covering news, many of the formats that we know, it's podcasting or debates. The better your guests, the most that you might be attracting new audiences. And I've seen that a lot. Sometimes they do collaborations. You invite someone that already has traction on social media, and then you invite that person to be your guest, and that brings that audience to you, because also the algorithm starts recommending. So people that seen these podcasts already also could start being, YouTube say, oh, I'm going to recommend this video too, because this includes this person. The other content pre-production that is crucial is thumbnails and the title pre-draft. And now, finally, production, video recording, editing, thumbnails, video title, the video SEO optimization, and publishing. And just to give you a glimpse of the particularities of YouTube, thumbnails are a critical aspect of the success of a YouTube channel. And this is not me saying it, this was YouTube ourselves. They had a one session that they were teaching us were the best practices of how to design a thumbnail, because they are the first things that users see, and they will make they make them decide to view your video. The decision is done by seconds, by scrolling down. Normally, users see the thumbnail first and they decide by the title description of the video. Many times, they don't even read the title description, they just see the graphic. So 90% of the best performing video have custom thumbnails. Design thumbnails that stand out. They're so important that it's a whole industry. Could you imagine? There's like, do you want to be a thumbnail artist? $300 per day, or week letters, or seminars just to how to design your thumbnails. It's remember, you are not only once you jump into the YouTube arena, you're not competing not only with other news organizations, you're competing with independent creators, with influencers. It's a huge industry, and no wonder what their content, that they're just industry advisors and schools and webinars only for content creators. By the way, I would recommend you to look into the YouTube content creators channel. They have a lot of good resources too. And but I said, each industry and genre of content has a type of visuals. That's another thing that I've seen that people do not put a lot of attention. Your design, your visuals are very important. Thinking about how each type of industry tends to have a different type of visual graphics. So if you're talking about food, you expect to see the food. If you talk about sports, the palette of colors. If you're talking about gaming, so users are used to certain aesthetics they're related to the type of content that they're consuming. So think about that. And at the end of the day, how does a good thumbnail should look like? It should please the taste of the beast. Feed the beast to make it your friend. Feed the algorithm. Understand what are the signals the algorithm is going to take into consideration to recommend your video. And on the other hand, don't rattle the beast. If you create a thumbnail image that misleads users, as soon as the video starts playing and they know that they've been tricked and they click out, that would drastically reduce. So that's what I'm saying. It's not only the click rate, but also the watch percentage of the video. That, so let's say you have a video of 1 hour and people stay only 10% of the time. Let's say, what the percentage, let's say you have 1 hour and people stay only 5 minutes. Well, that might not be such a good watch time rate, right? But if you do a video of 5 minutes and people stay 2.5 minutes, well, that's 50%. That's a good retention rate. You see, that's what I'm talking about, understanding the metrics and the data that you need to look at. And the last thing that I'm going to say, so we can have some time to learn from the ground from Talha, it's just because I know that you're going to ask about TikTok. What are the common reasons why news are jumping into TikTok? Well, basically to reach younger audiences. Some of them actually, they want to be in YouTube, in TikTok, to bring fact checking, because this platform unfortunately is rampant with this information. To expand the brand awareness beyond the traditional news consumers, because many news consumers are basically, because they're younger, they're not there are not necessarily overflown in TikTok yet, and to experiment with new formats. But as I said before, typically TikTok is not the first platform to monetize. So that's why I recommend that if you want to do both, serve your core news audience, which most likely is going to be higher likely in YouTube than in TikTok, and also monetize. I think that having YouTube thinking first and then do your edits, your verticals to the other channels, that may be a wiser strategy. I'm going to stop here so we have a little time for Q&As at the end, and share the floor with Talha.
Thank you so much, Adriana, for that. Thank you so much. If you can click and remove spotlight from your interface, can you do that, Adriana?
Ah,
Are you still being spotlighted?
I don't know, what should I do?
Are you still seeing your face alone on the screen?
I am not
Let-
sharing.
Okay. So thank you so much for that. We have a lot of questions already, and but we are going to get back to that after Talha's presentation. Talha, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please, you can.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. I'm not sure what time zone are you guys in, but it's 6:30 p.m. here in Pakistan. And I will not take a lot of your time. I think I wanted to do more of a question answer, but I'll quickly jump through into who we are and what we do and what sort of a work we did with Adriana and ICFJ. So my name is Talha and I'm from the Centrum Media. We are Pakistan's first independent digital news network. We are not a breaking news organization. Essentially, what we do is we give context around the news. These are some of our platforms. We have total 10 content platforms. We have 3 Facebook pages, 3 Instagram, and then 2 YouTube channels and TikTok and website, and 2 YouTube channels. And we have a reach of about like 25 to 30 million a month reach across all social platforms. We have roughly 2.7 to 3 million followers. And as I mentioned, that we are solely focused on the video content. So we have, over the last sort of 7 years, we have produced over 8,000 plus videos on our YouTube channel. And then roughly 2,000 plus videos for our clients as well. So the journey of PCM actually started very sort of a very startup-y sort of style. I was in UK, I moved back to Pakistan. I was working as a video journalist for international news channels. And one day I was like, I wanted to test out, what, like I have the idea in my mind. So we started like relatively very small with a Facebook page. Um, at that time, if you guys remember in 2016, 2017, the infographic videos were quite sort of trendy all over the world, especially after the Arab uprising in 2011, 2012, AJ Plus, and then now this, and then Vox and, like Vice, everyone was like doing a short form content. So that's how we started with relatively, to be honest, a very simple Facebook page with the name of the Centrum Media, and we started producing contextual videos on that page. There was no as such strategy of how to grow, how to make a business model, like analytics. Like we didn't know anything. We only know that we are a journalist, and what we can do is we want to tell better stories. And then, as I said, the inspiration comes from all the international outlets at that time and today, like BBC Urdu, BBC English, abroad. Now this was like main inspiration because I worked with them a little bit on a couple of stories. And in Pakistan at that time, there was not any of a similar platform which was producing that of a good quality content. But as soon as we started producing these infographic videos, and when I say infographic videos, these videos were text-based, little bit of interview in the middle, music. There was no narration or no face, on the video. And videos went crazy viral. Like we started with 0 likes, like a new Facebook page, and um, within 6 to 8 months, we were quite sort of trendy in Pakistan. These are some of the screenshots of our stories. You can see, like million, like 2 million reach, 1 million reach, 500,000 reach. And the biggest thing which we were focusing was not on the reach or the views. For us, the biggest thing was the engagement, that we want people to come and talk about the subject, talk about the issue. So if you see, like there was like 15,000, engagement, like 17,000, 4,000, 13,000. So that I feel like was our success. But then, over the last sort of few years, especially, I think the last 2 years, we can say Facebook was like a bit sort of confused, like, should we invest on news? Should we not invest? They started putting a lot of money. But then, the Australia thing happened, and all over the world, there were like small problems, especially after the Cambridge Analytica, scandal. So everything was like, okay, like, and we were also thinking, because we were a very small publisher, like there was no funding. It was a self sort of funding project which I was doing, and we were working with the brands. And for the first sort of 4 years, our core focus, like 80-90% of the focus was on Facebook, because it was easy, the ads were easy, getting the audience was easy. And also the biggest thing was that in Pakistan, like you have like 80% of the audience is on Facebook, and then the YouTube and the rise of TikTok and everything. So, and then what we did was, like, after looking at the algorithms, after looking at what's working on Facebook, like what we wanted to do personally, what we did was, I think in 2018, we launched our first long form content. And that was a sort of a decision that, okay, like now we want to move slowly towards the YouTube, because when we started putting out the small infographic videos on Facebook, the videos were not performing really well, because as Adriana was saying, like you need to understand the platform as well, like what platform is for what sort of a thing. So this was our first ever original long form series called Independence Diaries. And the aim of this series was that people who migrated to Pakistan in 1947, we want to tell their stories. And all of the people were like, this guy, he's still alive. He's probably, I think, 102 right now. And when I interviewed him, I think he was like 97 or 98. And these were like roughly 15 to 20 minutes of, the pieces. Obviously, the whole interview was around like 2 hours, 3 hours. But then we packaged it in a sense that um, like people go there and in like 10, 15 very engaging sort of format, people get what they wanted to hear. And and also like why we selected YouTube for these sort of series was because these are sort of the series which are very evergreen. You can go on YouTube because you need to, I think the most important thing is to understand the platform. On Facebook, no one goes on Facebook to search for the content. You go there and you're scrolling, something comes, you watch, you go. But on YouTube, you don't do that. Obviously now like shorts and reels, sometimes you just scroll, but still 80, 90% of the people like still type like whatever they want to search. This was our second series, Journalist Diaries. We tell the story of the famous journalists of Pakistan, who they are, how they started, what were the difficulties. And then, we launched like a lot of different series. And then in 2020, we launched our main sort of, which now is our main channel, which is TCM Originals. So all of our long form content we started sort of hosting here, like the full episode of 15, 20, 25 minutes go here. And then the small sort of clips of these series or these like, in-depth interviews were going on Facebook. So now if you see like roughly, 800K views, we did like after the fall of Kabul, we did the Guantanamo Bay Diaries. So these were like very in-depth, very exclusive series interviews which we did. So like 500,000. So in Pakistan, like 500,000 organic views on a very serious topic is probably like 10 million views if you get in US or something. So like if you see all of these stories. And right now, because the screenshot is just like quite recent, so we have roughly 1.6K videos on TCM Original right now. And then, as I said, like, after getting the success on YouTube, so now, then we started sort of pivoting slowly towards the YouTube because Facebook was changing the algorithm all the time. And there was no like sort of focus, like, should we, like, there's no monetization officially in Pakistan. Facebook still don't give the monetization option. You need to activate from abroad. So that was like one other problem which we were facing. And then, as Adriana said, like we worked with her. I'll go to that sort of slides later on. But she was mentioning that when she went to their headquarters and the focus of YouTube on the news was quite sort of excited for us as well. And we feel like in the coming years and for the last like 2 to 4 years, like YouTube has invested a lot on the news side. So relatively, I think it was like it's a right sort of moment to go there and focus on the YouTube. Um, I think this Adriana also mentioned about this, but in our sort of experience, of course, the long form content is the king on YouTube. And now after the rise of TikTok and these reels and shorts, like everything is working really. So our strategy normally is that go back is we produce roughly 10 to 20 minute feeds and then we make small clips and shorts and reels and put it on Instagram, YouTube shorts and YouTube shorts, and then Facebook, and then drive traffic to our YouTube channel, and then use the community of YouTube as well, like engage with the audience. And then we also have a podcast, which is around 1 hour. So people really, enjoy that format as well because everyone is sort of now getting tired. I think slowly. I will not say the short form content will die, but like after watching like so much of 60 seconds without having any content, so people are gearing towards the long form, in-depth, raw conversations as well. So that's why the podcasting is sort of quite trendy, around the world. These are some of the our series which we did. On like, which we focused on YouTube, and these are like a very in-depth sort of long form series. Like we got exclusive access to the judges of Pakistan. So we call like Judiciary Diary with the bureaucrats of Pakistan, the Guantanamo Bay prisoners, exclusive access, never came on media. Unboxing Pakistan is the podcast which I host, Pakistan's first ever political podcast. On the top right corner, Project 707, very exclusive, how Pakistan made a nuclear bomb. So we interviewed like scientists, like journalists, foreign secretaries, government people, like everyone for that series. And these sort of topics, if you see, like we call them evergreen because like probably in like 20 years of time, people will still go and find like how Pakistan started its nuclear program. So you will come up on the top. And then these are like, some of our other series as well. And then in 2022, I did a very exclusive podcast with the former Prime Minister Imran Khan after he um, came out from the government. And after that, the podcasting went, like we were sort of the pioneers of podcasting in Pakistan. Not that there was no one doing it, but I think we mainstreamed it that any big politician is coming onto the podcast because before that there was like nothing of that sort. And then after that, we interviewed, all the politicians from across the different parties as well. Like these are some of our, so if you go to YouTube and write Talha Ahad podcast, so I have my own now YouTube channel as well, where I bring people from all walks of life, like actors, influencers, journalists, humanitarian people, sports people. So over there, we talked about outside of politics. And then, as I'm sure you might all know, especially from 2021, 2022, we have seen the rise of TikTok and Reels and short form content. So now we are also focusing over there as well how we can get the audience from that short form content. And then we experimented. We launched our TikTok channel a year or 2 years back, and it was just crazy. Like one of like the top left video, we interviewed a politician. She's not any like famous. It was just like how you clip, how you cut the video, and it got like 2 million views on the channel, which has no reach, which is probably like 10,000 followers at that time. So now like we are focusing a lot on the short form content because through this, like I feel like you get the awareness. Not that people will go and watch the full video. A lot of people go there as well, but mostly it's like a funnel basically. You get the awareness, and then you bring people, and then you build the community. So these are like sort of the steps. What we have learned over the last few years, as well as when we were part of the Elevate program, especially working with Adriana, I was thinking to put that Excel sheet here with like a very complex Excel sheet, but I'm sure you might would have not understand it all. But these are some of the things. I think number one is building a very strong community of your audience. To be honest, now we are also feel like if I'm telling you that, oh, we have 3 million followers and we have 20 million a month reach, it doesn't like matter if it's a 20 million or 20,000. How much of your audience is the loyal audience? Because anyone can go and watch and then maybe not even remember you. So I think building a strong community around your brand is extremely important, whether it's a small community, whether it's a big community. And the second thing, which I feel like is extremely important, because a lot of times, like when I started, I was also not focusing on the audience because as a journalist, sometimes we are very, I would use the word arrogant as well. That no, we want to tell the best stories. We are like parents, like I know what the children want, and I will tell you, and but a lot of times, like that's not what audience want to know. Maybe they want to know a similar topic, but in what format, in what way they want to consume that. Um, so that's also very, very important, like understanding your audience, like how do they behave. If your audience is like 50-year-old man, he or she will consume very differently compared to a 15-year-old girl or a boy. So that is extremely important. Video is the future. Video is technically a present, not just the future, but in the long, long run, like we all need to focus on video and a good quality as well. And then one other thing which we are also sort of noticing a lot, that as an example on TCM original YouTube channel, we have a lot of series. We have explainer videos, we have contextual videos, we have historical contextual in-depth pieces, we have podcast, we have this like diaries format. So a lot of time, like I personally feel like, and right now we are having this discussion within the team, especially how to go about for the next sort of year and 2 years, is that we feel like now moving into the niche audiences are extremely important, because if I go to a place where I want to see a certain sort of thing, but there are like thousands of things, like no one will, I'm sure there are dedicated audience who go and find out the podcast or like something. Of course, you have playlists and all of that, I know, but like no one has time because there's so much information, there's so much data, there is so much new content coming out. So I think going into the niche audiences is extremely important, and niche channels as well. So now we were also thinking that why don't we launch TCM podcast as a separate channel? Because we have now so much content that we can do that. Of course, like if you're starting out and have like 10 channels and you're not putting out anything for like a week or 2 weeks, that doesn't make sense. Adriana already focused a lot on the thumbnails. That is like extremely important because, and I give this example to my own team, that if you make a beautiful house and you want people to come inside of your house, but the if the house is not well made or well looked outside of it, like no one will come inside. You can have like maybe diamonds inside or like free meals or whatever, but the gate need to be extremely accessible, extremely. I will not use the word clickbait, but in a sense, it need to be there is a good clickbait as well. You don't need to mislead your audience, but you can make a nice, thumbnails. And now, especially after the rise of AIs and like whatnot, especially the Canva, like there are like hundreds and thousands of templates which you can use. And then another thing, which especially when we were working with Adriana, and that was like extremely important, and we learned like so much because of the analytics, because we did like 7,000 videos. We have so much data, but to be honest, like we didn't know what what's working, what's not working. Of course, you have a guess. Oh, like this video is 1 million, this is 2 million, this is 3 million. But I think working on your analytics and make decisions based on your data is extremely important. Let's say you made a show for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, then like for a week, for 3 days, two days, like sit with that data and understand that data. What's working, what's not working, what do we need to do more, what do we need to minus, what are the new trends. So these are, like experimenting and evolving yourself is extremely important. So that's like a pretty much it from my end, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Kala, for that presentation, and thank you very much, Adriana. We have lots of questions already. We have lots of them, and apologies for because we had to close the chat box. I said they will not take responsibility for people sharing their personal details and any risks that come from you sharing their personal number outside what I said they can fully control. So I said there is not in the one organizing any WhatsApp group, and that is not our responsibility. We are going to tell you how to communicate, how to stay in touch. We have all of that plan figured out already. So thanks to Adriana, thanks to Talha for that presentation. And before I would like the two of them to take a break and relax before we start interacting. And if you are just joining us on either of the platforms that we are streaming live right now, I just want to welcome you to this interactive session on monetization of YouTube. And it has always been a major question that video content creators repeatedly ask each other, that how do we actively monetize this? And it's increasingly becoming a a major priority for video journalists, especially those that are forum members that desire to be able to do that. And we are really, really appreciative of these experts that have come to join us. So let's start with the first question that came in, which is on the importance of building your subscribers and how to patiently grow your channel. Do these metrics really matter these days? Growing your subscriber number and building up a channel. So what will you recommend in brief? I'll start with Adriana, then Tala will go that growing your subscriber number and how to build a channel from the start.
Well, how to grow the channel for the start would mean having a whole workshop, but some insights. As I said, maybe at the beginning, yeah, subscribers are good because people who subscribe to a channel, then the YouTube algorithm recommends to that people. But I would not put that much emphasis on the subscription to begin with. I would look more into the metrics, specifically video per video. Which video has first the click rate and the watch retention rate? Those are the key KPIs if you want to start listening, and look at each of those videos. And then the other one, which is a very important thing for the beast likes to see interaction. So how many comments? Do you respond to those comments? How many loyalty? So it's not, so subscription is just one of them. You might have, as we can see, there's some channels that have tons of subscriptions, but there's no activity there. So subscription per se doesn't mean it doesn't really help you if you don't have the other part, which is, watch time percentage, not only watch time in absolute numbers, but the percentage. That was matter even most. As I said, you might have 1 hour, but only 5% rate. That's not good. You have 10 minutes, but you have 50% watch time rate. That is good.
Thank you very much, Adriana. We have a lot, so let me go to the next question. The next question is, what would be the best way to integrate all of the suggestions you've made for YouTube into a bigger content creation plan? We have multiple platforms people want to put on that page. So how do we integrate all of the suggestions you've made for YouTube into a bigger content creation plan? I'll start with Tala on this time.
So, I know a lot of times the problem is like when you're starting out, and I can give, like, let's say if I did give you only 10 suggestions, you cannot apply all of them. I think what you need to do is like you need to start from like what is your big problem? As an example, if you're starting out and you're not producing a lot of content, but if you just start focusing on the branding or just the thumbnails, but you don't even have like 30 videos or 40 or 50 videos. I think the most important thing, anyone who is starting out, is to produce the content. That is the main thing, like that is the center point. And after that, everything comes. So I think write down everything and then see at what sort of stage you are at, and then sort of implement, okay, like for the first month, I need to do this. And then in the second month, I need to do this. And then third month, and then fourth. You cannot apply, like, to be honest, after like 7 years of my time, we cannot apply everything. Like there's a lot of things which we learned with Adriana that we are still sort of, okay, like, we need to do this, we need to do that, because in one day, especially as a content creator, someone who is producing the content, it's extremely difficult to, apply every single thing, especially when you have a very small team. You just need to sort of prioritize and strategically think like, okay, how can I start and make a plan, like a 3 months or a year or 6 months plan is extremely important, and then go with that.
Yeah.
I really want Adriana's thoughts. Yes, go for it.
Yeah, I would add that everything starts. I always recommend when we're talking about content in general is what is your North Star? What is your mission? What is your journalistic mission? Who is the community that you're serving? That's the first question. Then, okay, what type of core content you're doing? You're doing text format. And then thinking in the possibility of a multi-format from the get-go. Let's say you're doing an investigative piece, and think about, can I actually do video on this interview? Is there could be some graphics in for this kind of content from the get-go. So your whole production strategy is a multimedia production strategy from the get-go, and it doesn't have to be that expensive. It's just pre-production. It's just going to be just a short video with a cell phone. You see what I'm saying? And then, yes, that's the mission. And then, okay, how can I make money? I mean, is this going to be for a wider audience? Is this going to be for a niche audience? So those questions have to be strategy. The part I always recommend, the most valuable thing that you have is your brain, which is a strategy. Pre-production.
Thank you very much. I'll still stay with you, Adriana, because this question seems to be for you. You suggested several types of YouTube video formats. In general, out of these, which one is generally the most successful for views on the watch time?
That's a very tough question because I don't think that there's a general answer. I have to say, and that ties to another question that had to do with niche. They asking if niche topics still work. You know what? Actually, YouTube, it's so big. You can have, like, my husband is into guitar, and there's just a specific niche production about how to do bass and blah, 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 blah. Absolutely. Niche works, general also works. But you have to understand who you're competing against. What's your mission? And try to see which format. I would also link it to another thing. Generally speaking, we're talking about news. I think that if you're trying to compete with the big news organizations in your country, most likely you're going to have a hard time, right? So what I've seen doing in all of the news organizations that have consultant, they jump into personality driven content, meaning is the chief editor is one of the journalists that appears on the screens, and they do what they do best, which is interview people, question people, do journalism, right? So these personality host driven shows, they tend to work pretty good. And the good side of that they tend to have lower production costs, because, I mean, for instance, the one that I advised in Brazil, they were doing it from home, and they were, bringing, it was one of the most, if not the most successful independent news content in YouTube, and very low production costs.
I think I absolutely agree with Adriana regarding niche. I personally, too, am a big fan of niche content. And let me just give you an example of that. There is this popular science, actually anything that is science interesting, YouTuber. His name is Mark Rober. And so if you look at the kinds of content he does, you can see lots of views. Look at this one 5 days ago, already thrown together 14 million views. I strongly believe the internet has grown to the level where niche content can really, really do very well, especially considering the fact that niche, there are players in that sector. There are people that are also interested in that niche. So it's no longer about you doing general news anymore. I personally recommend it. I desire to give some people the floor to ask their questions directly. I can see some hand raised. If you also want to have the floor, please raise your hand, and I'll activate your mic. So, but if you are raising your hand and you do not want to talk, this is your time to lower your hand. So let me start with Diksoni Kapungi. So Diksoni, I've allowed you to talk. Can you ask your question live? While waiting for Diksoni, okay, let's go to Antonio. Diksoni, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Yes, you have the floor. Can ask your question.
I want to ask you the question that there is the guidelines in YouTubers that known as the reuse content. So how can we do if as we are a journalist or a journalist that we take in picture in the same angles and we use it? So that's how to use it in these policies. Hello?
Hello,
Yeah.
so what's the question? Okay, Adriana, did you get it? Do you want to respond?
If I understood, what you're asking is like if you're using footage from other broadcasters or other news organizations. I mean, that's a legit way of using, as long as you're not just retransmitting without comment or adding insights. And I said one of the formats is what they call React, in which you have a split screen, or you just put, like a little view of another video and then you talk on top of it. That is a legit way of using it, but you have to be always adding value, otherwise it's just plagiarism.
Thank you very much. We go to Judge and Antonio. Judge, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yes,
Hi,
please
hello.
ask your question. Hello, we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you very much. I'm Jorge Baquingo from Ecuador. I'm just trying to figure out what are the best practices for long during podcast, because I have one, and sometimes I have very good insights, but sometimes no. And I was just listening to you that said that if you have to this percentage of people listening to you, um, it, it's better to make short videos. What is your strategy? What can you tell me about the best practices for long during podcasts? Thank you very much.
Sure,
Let me
thank you.
jump.
Sure, Adriana.
Okay,
Yes,
I would
please.
say, so as I said, YouTube is a multi-format platform. So if you're going to have a long podcast, let's say that the long podcast is once a week, you have to always think about the cutting and the editing that you're going to do post podcasting. So those short clips could be in the other days of the week. Also, maybe you want to start like doing pre-podcast, post-podcast. Also, SEO optimization is crucial, because people search for things. So, and also the other thing, what's going to be your guest? What's going to be your topic? So it's not one single formula. There's a lot of things that need to be in place in order to optimize your podcasting. Data driven. You need to look what worked. Does this topic work this week, or this host didn't attract me anything? If you have a live podcast, chat. What are the comments? What is the percentage of loyal users that we have? Or in the YouTube analytics, you can see exactly and precisely where your viewership drop. And that is like very valuable. It's like, oh, we have a 1 hour, and then I retain, only 20% of my audience passing the mark of the 5 minutes. Oops, that might be something. What happened here? I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, we have very short time to answer all the questions, but I hope that, Taha, what is your experience now that you start doing your podcasting?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think
Lala, over to you.
absolutely. I think what you said, it's that there is no like one formula works for everything. As an example, everyone say like as an example, like I was in Thailand with ICF with MDIF and on a Splice conference, and over there in Southeast Asia, or generally like in South Africa and other countries, um, it's mostly the audio where like which people like listen. Like podcast is mostly the audio, like I personally love a lot of Western sort of shows. But as an example, in Pakistan, like the audio trend is not there. Like people don't listen to audio. So you need to listen, you need to do the video cast. So it's just, I think, firstly to understand wherever you live, like where is the audience? That is like the first question. okay, my audience mostly is on Facebook. So what you have to do is like if you're making a long form content on YouTube, you need to make like a small, you need to basically repackage the whole podcast into a smaller pieces. As an example, if you're doing a 30-minute podcast, a 1 hour podcast, you need to take at least, I don't know, like 10 to 15 really solid, really concise to the point clips, and then put that on Facebook and Instagram, and then divert the traffic. And in that, as well as an example, in one clip, like what is your title, what is your description, how you are like, you are removing the pauses, you're removing the breathers, what is the music, like what are you putting it into the end as a call of action that, oh, guys, go and watch the full episode. So like you need to consider every small detail. A lot of time it seems like as a content creator or as a journalist, oh, I did a best podcast in the world or I did a best interview in the world. But that is just the beginning. That is not the end. That is only 10% of the work. So that's what I tell my own team that making a story or a video or a piece, what like as much hard work as you did, that is only 20% of it. But how you are packaging it, what is your thumbnail, what is your YouTube title, what is your description, like the look and feel. So that's like 80% of the work.
Thank you very much, Ranjibi. You have the floor. If you still want to ask a question, live, while waiting for Chiranjeevi, let's quickly take this question. Some videos with thumbnails get less viewership, while some videos without thumbnails get more views. Why is this so? Adriana.
I don't know because I haven't seen that. I don't know how a video cannot have a thumbnail. It could be, we have to analyze the particular case. It could be because of the topic in itself. It could be because of the title. Um, as Taha said, there's no one size fits all. I will have to do a zoom in and analyze the particular case.
Thank you. There's a question directly for Talha. When you started TCM, how many people were on it? And when did you decide to scale up and focus on documentaries and original long form content?
Um, I mean, to be honest, there was no plan. I can make a whole story that, there was this strategy and, this was the first 3 months plan and then this and that. But in the end, the reality is of the actual, if I tell you the real story, there was no plan. It's just, to be honest, like you need to evaluate what's working and what's not working. As an example, when we started with a team of 2, 3 people, and at that time, if I say, no, I want to make a long form 1 hour documentary, and if I'm making like one documentary in 2 months, like no one is going to watch. And if I get like someone is going to watch one documentary, like, but then there is no content. Right now as well, a lot of people are like, why don't you make like a cinematic long form? Like we can make all of this. We make those similar pieces for our clients, for a big organization. But you need to see, as Adriana said, like you need to feed the beast and all of the social media is the beast. Like consistency is the king. Like you need to put stuff every single day, every single week. You cannot skip like, okay, I will put 2 pieces of content a month. That there are like millions of videos people are uploading every single minute on internet, So I think you just need to sort of strategize and see the like what's going to work. Like you need to understand again, as Adriana said, it's situation to situation. Like there is no like one answer. But for us, we were very clear that we want to bring the audience at least 50,000, 100,000 people onto the platform, and then we will go into the long form content. And then if you're also going to the long form content, we are not going to skip the content which is working well. So you need to like think about it, and everyone has answers really. It's like a therapy. Like when you go to the therapist, like the answer. It's just like you need to talk to someone. As an example, when we were having meetings with Adriana, like she just asked me things and I was telling her all the things, but it's just like putting it down, like like placing everything on one page, or like concising the information and just talking to your friends, to your colleagues. There's so much information available on YouTube as well. which is for free. And this forum, and I was just checking ICFJ website and all the other sort of similar platforms. Like there's so much knowledge which is out there, which we just need to sort of learn and adapt, I think.
Thank you so much. There are some really good questions, and I don't want us to go without some. So I will enjoy it. Please, if you can stick to like 30 seconds to answer. Chiranjeevi, are you still willing to ask a question for the last time? Hello? I think we've tried with Chiranjeevi. So the quick question next that we have is what are some effective strategies for optimizing a YouTube channel for SEO? Adriana, quickly.
Ooh, I love that. Well, first, title. Title matters. Title matters a lot. You should use YouTube in itself has a kind of good tools to see too, good analytics. But I would definitely use vidIQ. I would use all the other SEO tools to understand, title matters. Also, the description of the video matters. I've seen the best performing videos. They actually do transcripts, cap locks. So it's a dedicated effort. At the beginning, it sounds a little like, oh, it's too much. But once you learn how to do it, you start doing it like, in your sleep. But you also have to look at who else is doing the same content that you do it. Which are the words that they're using? Which are the people? What are the questions that people ask? So I would always go like, ask Mr. Google, do the question. So I'm going to do this title, this content, this video about this kind of topic. Go and do a Google search, go and do a YouTube search, just to guide you, which, what keyword, what kind of phrases you should be used, but definitely put a lot of emphasis on the title and in the description of the video.
Thank you so much. I would have loved Kala's thoughts, but I want to go to the next one. Sheikh is asking, I want to know if there is any software or AI help to customize thumbnails, or make an attractive thumbnail. Talha, Adriana, who wants to go? Hey, hi, what are your thoughts on using software to create? Any tips regarding the creation of
To be
thumbnails?
honest,
Yes.
the easiest one is the Canva. Like they have like beautiful templates. You can buy the pro version as well, which is also very cheap. It's not very expensive. And you just need to customize. As an example, the presentation which I was just showing you, like we made it on Canva. So our designer, put everything there. Now, like we just need to we can just edit, because normally before what happened is like if I want to change anything, I tell my designer, okay, can you do this? It's just like a lot of, the time wasting. So there are like so many tools. That's just like only one. But and in this, like people who don't know the edit, now they have the video edit option as well, which is actually like really good in the AI and a lot of other options. So just use one tool, but learn it like really well. So you need to be expert on this, and people are running companies on Canva really. So Canva, I think, should be your first priority.
Absolutely. Canva was what also came to my mind, and I really highly encourage you to. So, quickly, this person is asking, Swati would like to know, how can we stay safe and also protect our content on YouTube? Do videos get copied or pirated? You mentioned it briefly, Adriana, when you're talking about how this happens legally, which is reaction videos. And what are your thoughts regarding a content creator trying to go all the way to protect their content from any other person being using it? Adriana.
I do not understand very well the question. What do you mean by protecting the content? In which sense? If it's somebody's going to reuse your video, well, you're not going to
Copying
stop
and
it.
pirates. Yep.
You're not. You can't stop it. As far as I can
Yep.
know. I mean, eventually my YouTube might flag it because it could be if it's 100% the same. But generally speaking, I don't know if there's a way to. I mean, I don't know.
I think I don't think either, because sometimes you will see different content creators creating on the same topic differently. So I don't think you should worry yourself about that much. Or do you disagree, Talha?
No, I mean there is no like you cannot do anything. It's just like, sometimes you get so obsessed, oh my content if someone is downloading and using, it's fine. Like you cannot control that. And to be honest, you need to think it a bit differently that it's your free marketing. Like you're not BBC or CNN or like someone. Like it's literally a free marketing because that platform or that place they also have their own audience. So it's fine. A lot of times we just like dwell so much on these small issues, and you cannot like fix that. That's the harsh sort of reality. So you cannot do anything really.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think is Mr. Beast who seems to be the biggest subscriber. I watched the video of him saying, actually encouraging people to use snippets of the video because it's free marketing. So probably the second to last question I want to ask is, when do you decide to get paid, as in a subscription format? Like you enable a button that says join and you pay a small amount for that. Adriana.
I didn't understand the question.
I think it's about there is this subscription option. When do you start asking people to subscribe, and in which you enable a button for people to click to join? I think there are
From the
some
beginning,
YouTube pages.
always from the beginning.
Oh,
Because I mean, so this is a very interesting point. So again, maybe the number of people that subscribe to the channel doesn't matter that like it matters, but it's not like the most. But the signal of reaction matters. Remember what the beast eats. The beast likes to see reaction and interaction. So if you do a call to action in your video, say, hey, please give us that like, or give us a subscribe, or send us your comments. The beast is seeing that when somebody watches your video, they do something. Another signal that could be very good, like for instance, I do a lot of save because I have my playlist. And I know that maybe it's even a bigger signal for me to save a video than to subscribe to a channel. So it matters in the sense of the signals of reactions, not necessarily an absolute number of the subscribe. But yeah, from the get-go.
Talha, what are your thoughts too?
No, I mean, Adriana mentioned almost everything, but yeah, you need to, I think, smartly just put. I also, to be honest, don't like a lot of times, like before starting the video, hey everyone, like if like please subscribe, like blah blah blah. Like obviously, first I think you need to put out a little bit of content.
Yeah.
So like you need to give value to your audience, and then like very smartly, very like subtly you can ask people to sort of subscribe and put every time like put it into the description, put it into the title. Like as an example, if I'm talking like a strip over here, like it would mean a lot, like to subscribe, to watch. But yeah, you need to do this like all the time, not like probably like in one video like 10 times, but in every video very subtly you can put out a one small shout out.
Sorry, a good question. Quickly smoking that I'll take, then I'll close my eyes to all of the questions, I promise. Erwin from Indonesia is asking, as we know nowadays, people prefer to watch short videos instead of long videos. So which is better? We focus on making short videos, but we only make a small amount of money, or working on long videos like documentaries, which have more effort and high production. Adriana.
Okay, going back to the original point. YouTube is a multi-format platform. Short videos, the purpose of short videos is to start with the beginning of the funnel. It helps you to grow the viewership, but they're not very good at monetization. So you have to have a combination of both. Now, what we mean in YouTube long videos could be 10 minutes. I would say, and Talha had more experience in that, documentaries that could be like half an hour, 40 minutes, or 1 hour that have a very high production cost. that might be a little bit more risky to begin with. I would start with something more in the middle, but always think that short videos are necessary and you need them to grow the viewership and bring people to the channel. But longer videos could be 5 minutes or 10 minutes, are the ones that you need at least 10 minutes to start having a substantial monetization. Okay.
Ala, do you want to take a shot at it too?
No, I think Adriana is absolutely right. I think you need to just focus on whatever resources you have available rather than just, making something which is difficult, which is like so much of time consuming. Like start very small. I think the key over here is the consistency. That is like the main thing. There is nothing else. There is like nothing matters really. You just need to produce. Start with very small. There are a lot of organizations and companies who are just doing podcasts on Zoom, but they did like 200 episodes, 300 episodes, and that is the success rather than just putting 4K cameras and like the light and mics and this and that, like that, like everything is
Yeah.
secondary. The most important thing is to start, and the quantity, obviously, with quality is the most important thing. But don't start something which takes like, I don't know, even minimum like 2 weeks. That doesn't make sense to make in the start. So you need to put something which you can make within like 2 3 days, put it online, make clips out of it, and like one thing which I tell my team, like I think which is also which is like I think the key of social media is micro speed and macro patience. That is the mantra which I personally use in life
Love it.
as well as on social media.
Love it.
Uh, that is the key of everything, really.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and I would close with just reinforcing what Taha said. Absolutely, I would say one of the most successful political podcasts in the United States, independent, unfortunately, tend to be in certain side of the political spectrum, and they are so good because they are consistent. They produce and produce and produce and produce, and their production value tends to be pretty low. Meaning, it's just a simple Zoom or a simple, but there's storytelling. Don't underestimate the storytelling. So at the end of the day, it's your brains, is your journalistic capacity that will shine. So don't get too concerned. Yes, eventually you need to invest in a good lavalier and a good light and their basic stuff. But it's the storytelling and the consistency and the frequency. You could start with just maybe 10 minutes every day, just doing your reflections on what's going on, what matters, and start building your channel. With consistency, I love Taha, your insight. That's very on point.
Thank you very much. I was just about to ask for your last remarks, and I think that is a very, very good and perfect way to call it a day on this session. I want to thank Adriana. Adriana, you've been awesome. You've been amazing. You've been wonderful. Your messaging has been direct, really practical, not theory, not ChatGPT, really uh, uh, based on experience that our users can actually apply. And I think this is the second time we are having Talha on our forum. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. Many content creators would want to keep their secrets and let others wonder and also strive before getting those insights. So I really want to thank you for your interest in sharing. And I want to encourage all our forum members, everybody that is on this call, that would like to stay connected. We have our forum that is dedicated to promoting connections among journalists, which is the Access and my word from Global Practice Department. A link just dropped in the chat box right now. Click it, it takes you directly to the group. And that is the safest place where you can do all your connection. You can connect from that platform. We can also provide you with additional resources. For those that have been asking me, the video for this session is being recorded and will soon be available on YouTube. If you're a member of that Facebook forum, we're going to share the link to the video right in the forum when it's available, probably by tomorrow or latest by Monday. So please click the link and join our forum. And I really want to thank you very much. I also want to extend my appreciation to Renata from Heavyweight. This is our third This is our third session, and they've all been amazing. They've been addressing topical issues that would encourage journalists to be and media content creators to be successful in their vendor. So, what are your last words? What are your last remarks? And what I want you to also deliver a vote of thanks to our panelists today. Renata, over to you.
So I just want to highlight again about Elevate. Elevate is a free global program. If you joined the other two sessions, you heard from participants from Venezuela, Panama, and now Talha from Pakistan. Besides that, we have participants from Nigeria, Brazil, Ukraine, Serbia, Georgia, Nepal, Argentina, Mexico, Cuba. So everyone is more than welcome to apply. The program takes 7 months. We have training sessions with specialists on business issues content. Besides that, we have individual mentoring sessions followed by a grant application to work on a business issue that is preventing you from thriving and growing. Applications will open early January, so stay tuned. For more information, you can go to www.icfj.org/elevate and sign up. So when application opens, you will receive an email, and I hope to see you next year. Thank you. And thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much. On that note, we call it a day, and we say enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you very much. And it's been a nice partnership. We'll keep you informed of subsequent editions. But we have an important session next week, a webinar. So keep track of all our information, and you'll be informed. Just join our forum, and we'll keep you abreast of everything that is happening within the forum and across the ICFJ ecosystem. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.